Welcome, everybody, to episode 22 of Random Encounter. This will be take 2 of episode 22. I'm your host, Robert Steinman, Pale Robbie on the boards. Yes, we recorded an original episode 22. It was full of awesome. Let's see, we had David Cage on, and I got into a verbal argument with him over Heavy Rain, how wrong he was.
Yeah. No, we sang "Gonna Take You for a Ride" from Marvel vs. Capcom.
We did actually sing that. So we had a podcast, and the software equipment kind of blew up, so we lost it. And we apologize to you guys for that. So we're going to try something a little different today. But first, let's introduce everybody else. Joining us, we have special guest back from the E3 show of the podcast.
Kimberley Wallace. I'm K-Star on the boards, also managing editor.
Okay, excellent. And then we have the man with many titles.
This is John McCarroll. I am news editor.
I think you've used that one before. I think you're right.
I'm running
He's
out.
using it again.
You did junior
I was junior
pictures editor last time.
Editor.
I was junior pictures editor in
Junior systems analyst. All right. Yeah. Okay.
No,
then we have the man from Japan.
Stephen Meyerink, Taylor on the boards. I am now head of soundtracks, and my cat is going crazy.
No kitty.
No kidding. Stop eating my PlayStation controller. That's a great meme. So like I said, we're going to try something a little different this week. We talked about games in the first take of our podcast. Obviously, I think it would be hard for us to do that again. So what we're going to do is we each came up with like our own special little topic about the games that we've been playing. And I think if we discuss them, it'll still give us an idea of the games that we were playing during the first podcast, but we can also try to create like some greater discussion at length. So without further ado, I was going to let Kim start, but she got all demure and didn't want to start. So we're going to go with John McCarroll.
Games are too long.
Wow.
Oh, son of a...
No, if anything, I think
magic.
they're becoming more. They're shorter now instead of.
They're
being
still
longer.
too long.
No, because everything's coming down to a handheld lately, so we're not getting that like 50 to 70 hour RPG that we were getting when they're coming on consoles.
I'm getting to the point where, maybe it's the fact that I'm supposed to be a grown up now, but yeah,
Okay.
note the supposed to. I'm supposed to be a grown up.
Okay.
And I don't have, I look at when I was in college and I was playing Persona 3 and Persona 4, and I played like 85% of Persona 3 and I beat Persona 4. I don't have the combined 140 hours to put into those two games. It's like, when I played Dragon Age 2, I sat down and I played it for the website over a weekend, and I played 22 hours in 2 days or 3 days. And it was like the most grueling experience of my life. I can only really play like an hour and a half of games a day without feeling bad. Like, I feel unproductive almost.
I'm gonna agree with you on that a little bit. I've noticed that when I was in graduate school and when I was in college, I found it a lot easier to spend ridiculous amount of time playing games. I think the biggest one that I did was Final Fantasy IX. When I played it the first time, I beat it in 6 days. 70 hours.
Rob, I really like you.
But it beat the crap out of me. Like I was pastier than usual. There was a nice collection of pizza boxes. My parents are all worried about me. But now it's like, if I have an hour or two to sit down and play a game, I consider myself to be like lucky during a day. And I guess what I'm looking for is a more fulfilling experience. That's why at first when Dragon Age 2 was said to be a lot shorter than Dragon Age 1, I was like, oh no, they ruined it. And then I started playing and I was like, no, that was fairly satisfying. I played it over the course of a few days because I had a long weekend. But if I had been playing that while I was teaching, while I was doing my job, that would have taken me like a month to beat. Yeah. That's a long time to invest into a game.
You say Kimberly mentioned handhelds, but even with Dragon Quest IX, like I started playing Dragon Quest IX and I got like 15 hours into it over the course of almost 2 months, and I just stopped because I'm nowhere close to anything. Like, and for me, like I know that there are lots of people out there who want 80 hour games. Like when I was in high school and Star Ocean 2, I spent 100 hours with, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
But maybe games just aren't grabbing you like they used to. I think I
was agreeing with you, Kim. I'm sorry.
Really hard. I know you are, but having really hard to get into. And I think for me, when I was playing, years ago, I never wanted my journey to stop because I'd get really attached to characters, but that's not happening as much to me now. So I feel like you feel it more. And plus, like, not to quote Jesse Spano from Saved by the Bell, but there's never any time. So I feel like I want something that's going to, like, make me addicted right away and not, have to be where you spend, like, 5 hours, 10 hours, whatever, before you really get invested in what you're doing. So it could just be a pacing issue.
But I kind of agree with that because I think I'm kind of in the middle because on the one hand, I used to think, I wanted all of them to be, wanted every game to be, 60, 70, 80 hours. But, as time becomes more limited, I say to myself, oh, I'm never going to finish this. And then the backlog just keeps piling up. But then on the other hand, I think Kim is right. A lot of, they don't hook you. Many games don't hook you as well as they used to. Look, for example, you reviewed Arts and Ellico, Kim, and the characters in that game, and I can't say I've played it, so I don't know for certain, look horrendous. And how can you spend that much time with characters that are that awful?
Well, it's interesting.
Then on the other hand, you get a game where, you have really engaging characters like Radiant Historia, or at least I think Radiant Historia has really interesting characters. But the game, and I hate to say this because I feel like, people that like it might shoot me down, but the game, they obviously stretched the game out far longer than it had to be to make it long because you go through areas too many times and just everything gets repetitious and the only thing that's different is the dialogue. It feels like they could have condensed the game to an extent and it would have been just as fun, but it would have felt fresher the whole way through.
I feel like there's also a problem with balance, like between gameplay and story. One seems to always take a back seat to the other, and it depends on what's more important to you. Stephen, I've seen you say that Radiant Historia has reused quite a bit of areas, which is making it hard for you to go through, but you're hooked on that story, so you're going to keep going through to complete it,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Because the characters are real, like, the characters aren't, they're not way out there. They're not, huge stereotypes. I mean, you can eventually stereotype any character, but the fact is they're normal people and they react normally. And that's, I think, what bothers me about a lot of characters lately in games. And the reason I can't sit with them is because the characters in most games these days react totally unrealistically to whatever's going on. Like, I remember playing Sands of Destruction, and the characters in Sands of Destruction, which was, I think that game was about 30 hours. The characters in that game never quite reacted to the fact that they were doing these insane things. They were just like, oh, well, let's keep going. Someone just died and the world is ending. Well, let's keep going. Let's have dinner.
Well, I mean, you got to keep the world going. I mean, I think it's interesting because I was playing Mass Effect 2. I restarted a game of Mass Effect 2. And the opening of Mass Effect 2, you are, like, right there. Like, you're basically brought back from the dead. You're like a freaking space vampire. And it's like, here's a gun. Time to start shooting things. And, like, I really like that opening, and it definitely got me pulled into the world. But then you have other games like Fallout 3 where the beginning is very, very slow. The beginning is very methodical, and it brings you in from an immersion standpoint rather than a guns blazing standpoint.
Well, like, I think that a game can do it successfully either way. Like, you mentioned Fallout 3. I never felt disengaged from Fallout 3. Fallout 3 had me from the very beginning because it was like, hey, I'm here in this world and I'm going, and I dug that, and I went in and I was like, wow, this is great to explore. But, and Mass Effect 2 was kind of like, okay, here, let's go. Boom, you're here. But I think Mass Effect 2 could do that because Mass Effect 2 assumed you were familiar with the world already.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah,
Fallout
maybe.
3... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that maybe the key here is that maybe we need better introductions into games where it just hooks you right from the beginning. I think there's been this, it's taking too long for people to get invested, and when you don't have as much time as you used to, it really starts to eat away at you that you're not totally in with this game. And I think it's really hard to do, to have that really compelling introduction. But I think you're right with Mass Effect where it kind of, it assumed in the second one you already knew the world, so it didn't feel like it had to go back and explain everything to you.
Yeah. And I look at Mass Effect 2, and I think Mass Effect 2 is a game that does it right. Like, and Fallout 3 as well, to a lesser extent. Fallout 3, there's never really a dull moment. And the game's not incredibly long. There's never a point where I'm like, I gotta do this. Well, to be fair, there's the mining, but we'll leave that be. But there was never really a point when you're actually controlling Shepard where you're like, oh man, I gotta go and I gotta kill a bunch of Batarians so that I can level up. No, it keeps you going along and you're golden the entire game. There was not a point where I was like, there's this barrier that's keeping me. I look at a lot of MMORPGs, and I retired from WoW now a year and a half ago, and it's those kind of games. It's like there is a barrier between the player and the content. We just had our Final Fantasy feature. Final Fantasy 11, I think, was one of the worst perpetrators of this in the MMO world, where it was, okay, there's this content here and this story and this stuff that could very well be fantastic, but you have got to go kill lizards in the desert for the next 200 hours.
Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. No thanks. I think I was playing Borderlands as well, and that'll go with my topic later on in the show, but I was playing Borderlands, and like the start of Borderlands is so ridiculously slow. You're just on a planet and you're just told to go shoot skags. And it's like, okay. And you're doing that for like 3 hours at the start of the game, and then you go and you start killing a lot of raiders, and you kill a lot of raiders for like 3 hours, and then you go do this for like 3 hours, and it's just, eventually the game gets screwed up in its flow, in its content, and what it's throwing at you.
We'll talk about this. Oh, go ahead, Kimberly.
No, I was saying, so maybe there needs to be more balance between like gameplay and story. Maybe the problem, like with Borderlands, is that it didn't give you enough between all those sessions where you had to basically grind and stuff like that.
You and I played Borderlands together, Kimberly. Borderlands has no story.
I've never invested in that story at all, and I'm very much a story girl, but that was one game where I just played it for the gameplay, and I honestly could not care about the story in any shape or form.
Yep.
Which I gave the story a 70, which I want to go retcon that and give it like a 40, but I can't. There really is no story. It's, oh, hey, there's a vault. It's got a whole bunch of crap in it. You got
and there's this girl who talks to you in between and tries to lead you to where you should go.
All right, now you need to go get this gun that shoots dogs. Go.
No, and I think if they made a second one, if they tap deeper into the narrative, I think that would be interesting, and I'd like to explore that.
You want a conversation wheel? It's like, do you want to go kill skags or not kill skags?
Well, I'm all about choice in games, so I would go for that.
Now, what's funny is even though Borderlands didn't have a story, it had funny things going to it. Well, what was the name? I forget his name, the old man that you meet at the very beginning of the game.
Ned?
Ned Shack, and then there's Zombie Ned later on.
Yeah. So another game that is not an RPG, but actually has huge pacing issues, and I'm going to talk about it just because the series is commonly referred to as an RPG and we cover it. Castlevania Lords of Shadow was about 20 hours long, and it should have been like 8. It really showed me that, like, if you take the God of War mentality of a game and you just keep stretching it, you don't fill it with things that make it more interesting. You're kind of just doing the same thing over and over and over again.
That, I think, is the number one problem that I have. I have no problem if a game is 40 hours and it's 40 hours and it's all good. But I don't want to play a 40-hour game for 10 hours of content. Like, it's okay if you're developers. Listen to me. I know you're not listening, but you need to listen to me.
I know you're not listening, but still.
Yeah, no, I agree with this totally. This is what happened in Recoded. Like, it should have ended way sooner than it did, but they tacked on this extra content that felt very disjointed from everything else that you were doing, and it also felt so tacked on that I kind of was like, okay, I get this. You did this to draw out the time, so you could say it had so many gameplay hours, but it just didn't work because it wasn't even fun content to go through.
Oh, you know what? I'm going again on the non-RPG thing, like Rob did. Gran Turismo 5, I don't want to grind for credits anymore.
I knew that was going to happen eventually.
Like, no, I grinded.
Wait, didn't you do those races where you didn't even have to be at your PS3?
No, what's great is now there's even a point where you can turn on your PS3, load in Gran Turismo 5, and control it from a website from anywhere. So I could theoretically boot up Gran Turismo 5, go to work, and be like, okay, B-Spec driver, race and get me money.
So you basically have your own little Korean gold farmer.
Yeah, pretty much. Most gold farmers tend to be Chinese. Koreans actually have a much higher GDP.
Sorry.
Lesson of the day, Rob.
I really do agree, though, with what Kim was saying, too, is that they take these games that are just, they're not meant to be longer, and just to sell them to people on the internet who are going, oh my God, it's so short, it's not worth your value.
Yep.
They do that. And Recoded was a really bad example, good example, because Recoded, it's a cell phone game. It was like 6 or 7 hours on the cell phone, and they stretched it to like 25 on the DS. I mean,
go ahead.
Recoded is over after the first 10 hours, because at that
Exactly.
point,
you didn't want it to go on any longer than that. You were done.
and the reason what they could have taken out is what they added to the DS version of the stupid little like debug dungeons, because they're all the same, they're all annoying, and they're fun for maybe the first 3 of them, and then they're never fun again. They could have just taken that game and basically put all like the weird little mini games together and the regular combat. It would have been 10 hours, 12 hours long, and it would have been
and not charged $34.99 for it.
Yeah, they could have charged $20 for it, and it would have been much better.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
One thing that's interesting that THQ is talking about with like their new MX versus ATV game, which maybe this should have been my topic, but oh well, where developers are releasing games that have less content, but have an aggressive DLC schedule. So the new MX versus ATV game is only going to be $40, but it's going to have a bunch of DLC with it.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting way to go about it.
Where I bought literally all of the Mass Effect 2 download content. Well, no, I didn't buy the weapon packs, but that's because I don't want to waste $2 of time. But it would be interesting where if you were to give me like take the shell of Mass Effect, strip out half of the characters, get rid of Jack and whoever that I didn't use, and offer, or even some of the characters that I did use, because I would be more likely, say they offered Jack and Garrus and whoever else is download content, I'd want to buy Garrus. If you offered Garrus for $3, I'd buy Garrus.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but if they offered Garrus for $60, I would buy Garrus.
That's a little bit creepy.
But
quiet, Rob. I made my girlfriend play as Femme Shepherd so I could see the Garrus romance.
That's really creepy.
Don't judge me.
We should probably wrap up this part of the discussion so we move on to somebody else.
I have a question for Steven. Steven, do you have the flexibility?
Oh God.
Wait. Which one?
Can we?
I have the reach.
I'm supposed to have the reach.
Okay. Let's move on to Kim. Kim, I'm sure you have a topic of discussion that can get us away from things throbbing, Garrus, Breach. What?
Well, I kind of wanted to go and talk about when they resurrect a series that has been no more for a while, and they do it and kind of forget what the fans liked in it to begin with. And the biggest example I can think of this as of recently was the Third Birthday. You went into that game and you wanted Aya Brea, you wanted this tough chick who was going to go after things, and you got everything but that Aya Brea. And so if you were a fan of the series before that it made it very hard to play the game, and because you basically saw a character who was unrecognizable before your eyes. And it comes back to the point that Square is not really focusing on what their fans are looking for with these games. They're very passionate about these series, and I just felt very disappointed with all that.
What's interesting is Third Birthday was definitely a failure there, and you look at other games like Bionic Commando, the Bard's Tale remake, like Asheron's Call 2, the Sonic the Hedgehog for Xbox 360, that are these reboots that really don't work, and they're awful games. Their fans don't like them, but this doesn't happen very often. But you get the occasional one. So Baldur's Gate 2 for PC, hardcore Dungeons and Dragons. It's for the nerds, for you and me. And then you had Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance for the PS2, which was nothing like the PC Baldur's Gate games. But it was a good game, and it found a different audience. Now, I don't think that Third Birthday did this at all. I think that maybe it found people who really wanted a shooter for the PSP. But sometimes it works, but not often.
I think too that's actually pretty interesting because you could think of good examples of it too. On the other hand, like with the new Deus Ex, I've been actually watching. They've been doing developer interviews, and they're trying to make a game that appeals to a new audience but has what the original game did. And they're spending a lot of time doing that, but they're not doing, say, what Sega did with Sonic 4, which is literally just keep remaking the game whenever fans say something is wrong, and then you end up with something that nobody likes. And it seems like they're sticking to their design ideas, but they're willing to make small changes. Like when the Deus Ex Human Revolution gameplay trailers first came out, there were these bright orange boxes around everything. And the original game had highlights on everything. But in this game, they were standing out really bad. And they said, well, we want people to know what you can interact with. So as a compromise, when they saw people, freaking out about it, they just added the ability to turn off the highlights.
Yep.
So they made a compromise, not with their design philosophy, but with, allowing people to play it the way they want to play it. And I think that's much better than, say, creating a game like The Third Birthday that's only going to appeal to a very specific set of people who are probably not the fans of the original games.
Well, I think it all comes down to balance, because I'm thinking of Dragon Age 2 right now, and a lot of the people who found a lot of love in Origins, went to 2, and they didn't feel what they felt when they played Origins, which was like this big overreaching story for the greater cause. And I'll be honest, I played about 10 hours of Origins and I could never get into it. But Dragon Age 2, was easy for me to pick up and play. I don't play many Western RPGs, so I think that had a great deal. I don't think it was a bad thing that they made it accessible for new players, but I think they just didn't get the right balance to also keep their fan base that, had really dug on Origins. And I think what it comes down to in everything is balance.
Yep.
And I agree with you there, but on the other hand, I think Dragon Age may not be the fairest example because no matter what they did, people were going to be complaining about it. Because I enjoyed Origins, but I enjoyed Dragon Age 2 more, even though I don't think it's as technically sound a game. Mm-hmm. I think that the fact of the matter is people just wanted them. People are offended by, they're dumbing this game down for the mainstream audience, and it's cool to hate on a game for doing that. Everybody does it. And BioWare, I do think they made a lot of concessions for the casual kind of player, but
also
the
I want to
fact
say
it's still an excellent game. Mm-hmm. But even if they had only made a few concessions, people would still be railing against the game, saying, "Oh my God, they dumbed it down. This is horrendous. I hate BioWare."
And I also want to look at BioWare as an example because they do something actually that most people aren't doing. They make their games for more than one specific audience. I feel like they're working so this is not a game that just one particular person can like. It can appeal to a variety of people. So I don't think it was bad what they did with Dragon Age 2. I think that, they did something very different than Origins and that people couldn't accept that almost,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People don't like change, even though the change in Dragon Age 2 wasn't that bad. And I agree completely. BioWare does a great job making their games appeal to a lot of people. I mean,
one thing I thought was interesting was before Mass Effect 2 came out, and I remember because I was at BioWare Studios the November before it came out, and it came out in January, and people were freaking out because the game's aiming, it wasn't RPG anymore. It was like, oh my God. Yeah, it's actual aiming. What what's going on, BioWare? What is this? And I remember when the game came out, that all disappeared.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh,
it was awesome.
This is good.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. When I first came to the site, Pat asked me to review Mass Effect 2. And I had played 8 hours of Mass Effect 1, and I hated it. And I was like, Pat, I'm really the wrong guy to play this. I hate Mass Effect 1. I hate the fact that it doesn't control properly as a shooter. If you give me this review for Mass Effect 2, I'm probably going to tear it a new one and already tick people off on the site. And Pat was like, no, it doesn't control like that anymore. It controls like a proper shooter. And okay, whatever. It goes on to Steam sale. I pick it up, and I shoot somebody right in the face with my sniper rifle, and they die.
He died.
And I was just like, it controls properly now. The biggest problem I had with Mass Effect 1, between that and the awful, atrocious, god-awful inventory system, those are both gone. This is okay. I can now enjoy the story. I can enjoy the character interactions, and I'm not struggling to shoot aliens in the face.
And if you think about it, it makes sense, too, because I believe that Mass Effect 2 is the game they were trying to make with the first one. I really do.
I agree.
They didn't streamline it down. They made the game closer to what they wanted it to be. They always wanted Mass Effect to be an action RPG with, role-playing elements.
Yeah, and BioWare, just real quick, BioWare has always sucked with loot. They just suck when it comes to loot. Like, there's maybe one good armor set in Dragon Age that you like, but really it's just a lot of vendor trash. And I couldn't get over, like, the inventory system for Mass Effect 1 and just being like, God, I hate all of this. I have like 30,000 rifles, and I don't care what any of them do. I can't even properly figure out what they do. Meanwhile, I'm playing as an infiltrator in Mass Effect 2, and it's like either you get the one-shot sniper rifle that does massive damage, or you get the semi-automatic sniper rifle that has a lot more ammo. And it's like, I can understand that. I can deal with that. It's a nice, clean inventory system that, it doesn't handle the loot angle that well. You don't have a glowing orange weapon, but I like it. It works.
No, and I applaud BioWare with Mass Effect 2. For me, what I've noticed sometimes with series, my whole thing when I play a game in the series, the next game, I always want it to be better than what I had gotten the first time around. And sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. And this kind of goes back to my topic with, they had a really strong game and they came back and it didn't measure up. So with BioWare being able to do that with Mass Effect 2, I think that's a good example of a game that succeeds on that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So any final thoughts on Third Birthday there, Kim? I mean, we talked about it a lot in take 1 of our podcast, and we brought up the assless chaps a lot. So is there anything else that we want to talk about that Square boned with this series?
Well, I think what it comes down to is even with the assless chaps and everything, I could have ignored it if the character was still true to herself. And if the story actually had something, my whole issue with the story is it was trying to throw you into cheap plot twists without making sense just for effect. So
that sounds like no other game that we've talked about recently on this show.
So,
such as Heavy Rain.
No, and I will disagree with you on that one.
Oh, for God's sake. Why is it that every person that woman runs into tries to kill or rape her?
You're going back to Madison. She was an awful character. If anybody character needed to be killed off in that game, it was her. I think they wanted to make a strong character there, but they failed completely. Heavy Rain did that what Heavy Rain did that made it successful was I actually cared. I was a freaking nervous wreck during that entire game. During every decision that I made, I was like, oh my gosh, am I making the right choice?
Is somebody gonna die? Oh my God.
See, all I could think is like, wow, I totally understand why she has sleeping problems and doesn't want to go outside, because everyone she runs into is trying to kill her.
When the guy was like, do you want me to pour your drink? You knew that was a bad idea, okay?
Oh my, well, what's funny is
don't do that.
I did that scene again and I just kept having her drink and I just kept doing it. I literally did it 50 times and that glass never disappeared. She just kept drinking. Oh my God. Seriously, I understand why she's so paranoid. Everyone hates her.
I agree, Rob, but the thing is, it's just like Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 2 has a bad character, Isabella. Heavy Rain has a bad character, Madison.
Well, Dragon Age 2's problem is exactly the same. I was going to say
Heavy Rain succeeds because, like Kim said, some of those decisions are nerve-wracking.
Sure.
The part at the end of the game where you're in Ethan's car and you have to find out, you have to figure out where the killer is right now, and it's based on all the clues you have, and you can pick the wrong place. That's like completely nerve-wracking. Like if you make the wrong decision there, you killed his son.
Even though the game basically spells it out for you and tells you that you need to go near water.
Well, yeah, the game does, but you have still to pay attention.
There are people that don't pay attention while they play games, and if they miss that, they miss the whole point. For me, it was like a bigger thing of, could I kill a character off? Like, was this decision okay, or was it throwing me into something harder gameplay-wise because I made the wrong one? I think a good example of this is I'm playing Dragon Age 2 right now. I'm actually just about done. And you can tell where your decisions are kind of going to lead. Some of them I've been ambivalent on, where I didn't know where I wanted to go. But in the end, I knew no matter how I chose, like it wasn't going to be a huge whatever. Certain cases you can kill someone off, but it wasn't to the extent of Heavy Rain, where
I'll agree with that.
The emotional trauma that game put me through. Children in games, like when you know that you could potentially not save a child, that is like really scary.
You wanted to save Jason?
Jason.
And one thing to Dragon Age 1 and 2, and then maybe we can move on, is I think the best part of Dragon Age 1 is the lands meet, because it's like a self-contained narrative portion where the choices that you make and the interactions that you have with characters flow directly to who is going to be king and who is going to lead this army against the archdemon. Meanwhile, the ending of Dragon Age 2 is, well, you can side with this group or this group, but it doesn't matter. You're going to fight the same two bosses at the end of the game, and everything's the same.
Oh, yeah, that was not like that made me angry.
That was very disappointing. I mean,
that was pretty weak.
That
and
was
you
also
can miss characters and be okay with the ending.
Yeah.
You know what else was bad about in Dragon Age 2 is the fact that they spent all this time trying to build up what's her name, the Knight Templar lady and
Aveline.
No, not Aveline.
I know who you're talking about.
I know who you're talking about too.
Meredith, and then the mage guy, the leader of the mages.
Yeah.
They spent all this time trying to make them sympathetic, and then they make. Are we allowed to say spoilers?
Spoilers.
We are going to spoil.
You can just say they make not the best decisions.
They make those characters become completely unsympathetic, and it just destroys all the buildup they had to them.
I like the fact that in Dragon Age, it's like, well, all mages are blood mages, and the mages are like, no, we're not. And then it turns out that, yes, indeed, about 99% of mages that you fight in Dragon Age are blood mages.
And all of them become blood mages. If they're like, I would never turn to blood magic, but I can't because they're murdering my people. I must become a blood mage. It's the only way.
Yeah, then we have the great debacle of one of the main characters committing an act of terrorism. which was just like,
So, Rob...
can I guess?
No, don't guess.
No. So on podcast beta or podcast alpha or whatever we're calling the one that got lost, we had mentioned that Kimberley did not pick up Isabella in Dragon Age 2.
Whoops.
we got to the end of Act 2, and that fight plays out very differently.
I want to know how. Can we talk about it after the podcast? I really want to know.
I'm actually curious too.
We can talk about it now. Just note this is a spoiler for the end of Act 2 of Dragon Age 2. So
the best act.
Yeah, skip maybe 5 minutes ahead if you don't want to listen to it. But so in the end of the second act, at least for myself and Steven and Rob, you had to fight the Arashok alone,
and it sucked.
And it was easy.
It was impossible.
That fight was so annoying. That was the only fight that I found more annoying than the Act 1 boss fight.
I had to kite him with my archer rogue, and I just gave up.
So,
I brought my dog.
When Kimberley had to fight...
Kimberley apparently fell down a flight of stairs.
When Kimberley had to fight the Arashok, so you know how there are like, I don't know, 25 Kunari in that room?
Yeah.
You have to fight all of them.
Yeah, I beat all of them when I did it, and it was easy.
No, like with the Arashok.
Yes, I did it, because I couldn't beat him one-on-one, so I said, F it, I'm going to use my whole crew, and we just tanked the crap out of him.
Okay, so that the solo option is not an option. Like, the Arashok is just like, where's the relic? And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, I'm going to destroy you now.
So you never find out what the relic is, and you never get it because you don't have Isabella.
No, there is absolutely none of that. He's just like, bye, I'm going to destroy you, Hawk.
Hawk's like, dude, I'm not. Hawk's like, I'm not even supposed to be here today. Like, what's going on?
So pretty much what it comes down to is that entire plot line with the relic and everything else is gone.
Oh, that's horrible. She's kind of a central character to the game now that I think about it. Like, they even posted her in the first trailer for the game.
Like the story makes complete sense without her.
Well, I don't know. That's true. That's true.
Or do you think they should have made it like she was forced to pick up?
No, that's hard.
See, the thing is, though, the story isn't really like, I mean,
it's not even about that damn relic.
Knowing what happens, it doesn't make any sense. But if you think about it, Hawk's story, it makes perfect sense. I mean, regardless of whether or not he gets the relic, he's still stops the air shock, and
Like,
that's all that matters in Act 2.
You can take out so many chunks of Dragon Age 2, and it still works.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Can we also talk about the fact that I didn't realize when I was supposed to flirt with people, and now I have no romance options?
No one likes Kim.
No, so
Woohoo!
she mentioned earlier she doesn't play a lot of Western RPGs. She was talking to me today. She's in the third act, and she says, "When do I get to start flirting with people?"
Oops.
But here's the thing, and
Errol and I were steady at that point.
Here's the thing.
I'm going to be completely honest. The dialogue choices that I had, because it's like for me it was either Anders or Fenris, okay? Where the lines were so cheesy that like I couldn't. I was trying to play this game as me.
It had a heart. It had a heart. That's telling you that you should.
No, you know what? I'm going to argue with this because the only time I got freaking hearts were for the girls, and I was not about to go down that road because the only girl I liked was Bethany, and she was my sister. So we couldn't go
we talked
there.
about how creepy that was on the Alpha podcast. Creepy.
Anders is just such an annoying character. I can't imagine.
He is. I hate him. So I wanted to go for Fenris.
He was awesome in Awakenings. He was awesome in the expansion pack. John, can you back me up on that?
I didn't play Awakenings. I have it sitting here. I haven't played it.
I really liked him in Awakenings. He was pretty.
I noticed as the game went on, my responses to him got like more sarcastic and mean because he was just driving me crazy. And Fenris, though, his last character scene, I don't know if you guys ever got to it, but it broke my heart.
It's
at
awesome.
The end. Oh my gosh.
Awesome he was. Fenris was such a good character because I hated him at first.
That's what I like about it. Like BioWare, their characters, they have faults. There's parts of them that you can absolutely hate, but as you go on, you start to realize why they are the way that they are, which I think is awesome.
And I mean, over time, I think I mentioned it in the last podcast, you just start to like love Fenris for being such a violent bastard.
He just punches through people on a daily basis.
Somebody crosses Hawk and you're just like, excuse me, Fenris, please crush this man's chest. And Fenris walks up and he's like,
see,
I actually wanted to see a Fenris Anders fight, but it never happened, at least now.
Rob and Steven, you had mentioned that you both did the whole Fenris destroy them. Mine was Varric make fun of them.
I also said I wish Varric was a romantic option in the game because the dialogue that comes out of him by having him in your party is just amazing. I love it.
I still have no desire to play Dragon Age 2 again. I started it and it's kind of like the same thing that happened with Mass Effect 2 where I didn't want to play Mass Effect 2 again and now it's like 6 months later and I'm playing it. So maybe down the line I'll play Dragon Age 2 again, but because the choices really don't matter in the overall story, things kind of develop the way that they're going to develop and there isn't a lot of branching paths. I mean, I'll play through all of Dragon Age Origins just to get to the Landsmeet again because the Landsmeet is so awesome. But Dragon Age 2, there's nothing that really draws me. I'm like, so what happened in Dragon Age 2? Act 1, I killed a lot of dudes. Act 2, I killed a lot of dudes.
Who were related to the people you killed in Act 1.
Yes, and a lot of Kunari. And then Act 3, I killed a lot of dudes. Like, you kill a lot of dudes in Dragon Age. The death count is ridiculous.
Last time I talked to you
people that show up are either friends with you or they introduce you to people, and at some point, everybody you get introduced to tries to kill you.
All right, so Kimberly, you might want to cover your ears since you haven't gotten here yet. Last time I had talked to you guys about Dragon Age 2, and to our readers, this is spoilers for Meryl's character quest.
I'm listening.
I wiped them out.
I didn't care.
So you wiped them out? What about you?
I accidentally wiped them out. I tried to be nice, and they were like, we kill you now.
What about you, Steven?
I killed every last one of them, and I felt justified.
See, like I felt like I got forced into killing all of them. Like,
I do agree. I feel like you should have been able to be like, dude, I'm leaving. But because the what was her name? The lady that ran the place, the keeper. She even said, I'm doing this because I care about Meryl. And she does it, and Meryl feels bad, and then you have to slaughter the entire village.
They're elves. Nobody likes elves.
You shouldn't have to do that. Although I would have anyway, but.
At that point, I think I was playing Hawk as like a grand cleanser of the land, so I was just like, more people to kill. Seriously, he shoots people with a bow and they fall apart.
See, Rob would have wanted like Megaton in Dragon Age 2. He's been like, nuclear weapon? Hell yeah, I'm gonna blow that up.
No, actually,
What is a bomb if not to blow up?
Actually, in my first game of Fallout 3, I saved Megaton.
Well, here's with Fallout
here's
3.
the thing.
Here's the thing. Here is the thing. With Fallout 3 and Megaton, like, it's not like you're the reason that I didn't want to blow up Megaton was not because I was like, oh, I want to play this goody two shoes, but it's that the guy who was telling me to was a dick.
Yeah,
like I wanted to kill him more than I wanted to blow up the village.
Yeah. I was there with you. I was there. Plus, there were a ton of quests to do. So I'm very much one of those people that's like, I'm not going to kill everybody. I have questing to do.
Quest and then kill.
Quest and then kill. Yes.
Can I just say that I can never be mean in any of these games?
You haven't lived.
No. I completely agree, Kim. I like to play the good guy, but unless it's a really funny, sarcastic option, or
No, that's the thing, Stephen. We are exactly alike, because I will either pick the nice comment or I'll be sarcastic, but I will never pick the third comment that's just really mean.
Yeah, like, unless it's somebody who really deserves it. Like, if somebody comes up and is just hassling me, I'm going to be like, all right, dude, shut your mouth.
I think I did it like 2 or 3 times in Dragon Age 2, but never beyond that, which makes me interested on how I'm going to play Mass Effect with everything, because I have not played those games yet. So
don't play Mass Effect 1.
Here's the thing. I played about 5 hours of 1. I couldn't see what everybody was getting in a huff over of it, but I kind of need to play it, though, I feel, to play 2, because everybody says 2 is a better game. So I'm going to do it for that way.
In Mass Effect 2, whenever I see that little red star and the right trigger, it's just like, right trigger, right trigger, right trigger.
The only one I ever wanted to do was the one where you can punch the guy off, like the sky highway thing.
I love that mission. I absolutely love that mission where, like, you're crossing, building to building. It kind of feels like Max Payne.
Which was the mission? I can't remember, and I'm almost positive Mass Effect 2, but you come upon a Wallace who is, like, completely insane, and he thinks he's, like, got superpowers, and Shepard's renegade action is hysterical. Because it's just like Manuel from the first game where you punch Manuel in the face, but it's like, you're completely nuts. Boom, punch in the face, knock him out.
I think I send him into a room to try to kill people. I'm a bad person.
Guys, why can't I give in to the dark side? I kind of want to, but I can't do it.
I would have been the guy that Vader's all like, you must join the done. Just like, you haven't heard my done.
Rob, you kind of had an evil avatar, so I could see that.
I think my avatar is still fairly evil.
Yes, Sephiroth is.
Oh yes.
I don't know, but we need to take it away.
Poor podcast Alpha that had all of this in it, with Rob cackling about the Penny Arcade from 5 years ago.
But it was so funny. Yes, he killed Christopher Robin. All right.
So I one quick thing, and then we can go on to the next topic, even though we spent a lot of time on that. I'm not going to go into spoilers because it's still really new, but Arrival has one of the best Red Star Renegade moments ever. Like, it's fantastic.
Why is it that when you said that, the first thing I like imagined was you hitting the right star option and then just hearing a zipper? I have
to ask you, does it involve slapping?
I don't know why, but I just expect to hear, see the Renegade option with, like, the clang and then just zip.
No, it's actually it's a much more evil kind of badass option than a lot of them.
Do you have the option to kill?
I need to play Arrival.
I don't feel like I'm
better than the disingenuous one.
No, the disingenuous accusations thing is probably the best thing in the entire game.
See, that's the game I want to play. I want a game where I can actually be the killer in Heavy Rain and kill that little jerk. That's the game I want. That's how.
Guys, you just heard it. Rob does not have a soul.
It's true. When I played BioShock 2, I'm like, easy enough.
Now, you know what, Rob? Have you ever played any of the Deception games? So Deception, Kagero, or Traps?
Games where you lead people into traps and stuff? No, but I really need to.
Like, they're so archaic now, but like, Trap for the PS2 is not bad, and you can find it for like $3. But you just get to play as you're like, yeah, I'm evil.
That's me. That is me. I am so evil. Like, when I play Fallout, I'm just like, you're talking too much, and I just shoot him in the face.
What's like the priestess kind of thing you can get in Fallout? Because when I played it in Fallout 3, that's definitely what I got when I took the quiz.
Oh yeah. I played Fallout as the Joker at one point, where I just played like a grenade heavy, like just melee weapon going into towns and just randomly killing people. I just played him like the Joker, where I did all the dickhead responses and all the things that were just like, you die now.
See,
You know what
I
the
can't
best part
do
of
it.
Fallout 3 was?
It was so liberating because I was like, wow, this guy was an absolute dick to me last
And I'll
time
be
I
the
played this
first to
game.
admit I screwed up Fable 3 because I kept giving all my money away. And then I had nothing to protect us for the final battle. And of course, it was like, you are not going to go down in history as one of the strongest leaders. And I was like, ouch.
Like I think one of the best things that I remember was playing Dragon Age Origins, and during the Lands meet, I'm going to keep going to the Lands meet. I either talk about the Lands meet or Metal Gear Solid. That's what we figured out on this podcast. During the Lands meet, you help a character from one of the origin stories. But the first time I played the game, I played as a mage. So you help out one of Arl Howe's like cousins or nephews or something like that. I was like, wow, he seems like a really nice dude. You know, I'm glad I saved him, and I got some respect, and now I can use the Hows in order to make sure that I crown the proper king. Then I played the City Elf origin, and I found out that he was an elf rapist. And I was like, that guy is a dick. I wish I had killed him. Like, that was such a great moment of like connections between characters. Like, this character put the shine on me as a mage, and I believed him.
I almost feel like BioWare, like they make you suspicious of all these characters, and it's almost like you don't know who to trust.
Yeah, it's like playing Game of Thrones, only not as well written.
Another good example of that actually is in Mass Effect 2 when you meet the assassin, the girl who's like, oh my god, I just want to leave, help me, and you let her go. And then you find out 5 minutes later that she's like the vicious leader of a group of assassins and that she totally played you.
Yep. Guys, I really hate to do this to us, but we're coming up on like 10 minutes to an hour. So, Steven, can we maybe save your topic and we'll save my topic? And then maybe we'll do like a shorter podcast here in the next week or so to make up for the fact that we haven't recorded in a long time?
Yeah.
Okay. Because
News.
I would say we need to make a news jingle, but then I'd feel like we're totally copying Weekend Confirmed, and
But we can just yell news like
News.
No, we should do it to the Blues Clues theme.
Blues news. Blues news.
Kim, you're so like full of sunshine and daffodils. I just want to strangle a puppy right now.
No, that puppy has feelings.
Not when I'm done with them.
All right.
Wow.
I have to mute my microphone for a second because I'm about to burst out laughing because my cat has rolled herself up in the carpet and is now attacking the carpet that she can't get out of. I'll be right back.
All right, news.
Renegade for life.
News. Final Fantasy VI coming to the Virtual Console.
Exciting.
Exciting. Best Final Fantasy ever.
Well, here's what's great about it is we haven't got a bunch of remakes of it, so I think people can appreciate playing it again.
I would totally agree. It's a fantastic game. It's my favorite Final Fantasy. I understand the complaints, people saying it's overrated, but I think it has a tremendous cast.
You could say that about any Final Fantasy, though.
I just love the completely open-ended second half, where you can get like two characters and go fight Kefka.
But the thing is about that, actually, first you should get two characters. You should get Silas, and then you should go back, get Mog, and then win the game.
Yes.
No, Umaro.
I'm sorry, Umaro and Mog. Okay, but Mog is key here. And the thing about that is a lot of games have like open-ended second halves or like open-ended sequences like that. But the thing that 6 did so well is the fact that it was open-ended, but there was still an actual plot there.
Yes. I adore 6. I really, really do. I adore 6. It's a great game. All right. So more news.
More news. So
is this going to make me laugh when I open it?
Yes, I think so.
What the hell?
That's
what is that?
Oh, come on. Tampa Bay scored.
That's
it's Umaro on top of the big snowball. He's going to throw the snowball.
And he's flexing.
All right.
One quick note about Final Fantasy VI to Virtual Console. Since Square has done so much to make sure that we got all the numbers right in North America, it will be called Final Fantasy III on the Virtual Console because it's the Super Nintendo version from North America.
Awesome. Way to confuse everybody.
Wow.
What a great way to confuse people again.
Oh, my God. I hate Square. No, that's not fair.
Well, I think this is Nintendo's deal. So
come on, Square.
Square Enix is working on an iOS and Android title that we know almost nothing about.
Vagrant Story 2. This time it's Ashley Riot.
Oh, God.
Rob doesn't want that.
Do not
Ashley
want.
Riot.
It's going to have Advent Children quality cutscene.
Wait.
Just put the dagger.
Yeah, hey, Rob, it's going to be a side story called Ashley Riot. Riot Control.
Wow, just put the dagger in my heart. How many zippers is he wearing?
10. And he also has a snowboard.
Yeah.
Wait, have they hinted to where this is going at all or anything? No.
No, we have like no idea what this game is at all. We just know that Square is working on an iOS and Android game.
I hope it's.
I'm sure they'll announce it during E3. Just to keep things fun.
I hope it's the Final Fantasy VII remake on Android.
That would drive people crazy.
It would literally drive people to insanity. And you'd have like stuff all over the internet with people talking about how now, iOS is now a legitimate gaming platform, and
it has a Final Fantasy.
Well, it already has 3 of them now.
More news.
Hyperdimension Neptunia 2. If you like your video game consoles as women with breasts,
what?
There is going to be a second.
Here's the funny thing about the second one. It's like making fun of portable systems, but it's on the PS3, so people think that's good irony. I think it's just they can only make games for the PS3. So
I'm Ron Burgundy.
So if you like your video game consoles as avatars.
No, and there's no doubt there's an audience for those types of games, and I'm sure they're going to enjoy this one.
I'm being serious. Like, if you like the first Hyperdimension Neptunia, there's going to be another one. If you didn't,
expect more Thunder Tits.
Yes.
I would turn the game
It's like the worst line of dialogue ever. I can't, every time I think of the game, I think of that line.
I would literally shut the game off and never play it again.
Well, that's what John did after he heard it.
I have the achievement for starting up Hyperdimension Neptunia, and then I sent it to Dennis.
God
More
bless
news.
Dennis.
Chrono Trigger coming to the European Virtual Console.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it on the American? Is it on the American Virtual Console?
No.
No.
Here's my thing with that. We got such a remake of it that I almost feel like you wouldn't need to do the VC. But
Yeah, the Penguin scored.
The best version of Chrono Trigger is the DS version.
Yeah,
for real.
3DS, Zelda, Ocarina of Time, June 19th.
Maybe I'll actually like it this time.
I agree. Maybe I will like it too.
Maybe this will be a worthwhile title, because I know when I got my 3DS, it was very underwhelming.
I'm glad I didn't get one.
We got it on release day, and I was so excited. And then I don't know why I picked Sims 3 for my launch title.
Ouch.
It was a bad decision.
How bad do the regular DS games look on it? I know a lot of people have been complaining.
Okay, so it depends on the game where you'll see a degradation of graphics quality. You can hold select and load the game, and it will load it in its standard resolution, which puts it on a 2-inch screen. The only game that I've really noticed a significant difference is Pokemon, and it's mostly in the text. The text looks weird.
Interesting. That's also interesting because it's a major release right around the time of the 3DS launch.
It's not the end of the world. I think it's less of an issue than most people are claiming.
Do we know about NGP backwards compatibility yet?
No, not yet. But I think it's got the same.
It's not using UMD. So
weren't they saying the release date was going to be in the fall for that?
They basically want to re-release a lot of the games digitally so you can play them online.
Yeah, backwards compatibility.
Sorry.
I was thinking in terms of how it will appear on the screen with the different resolutions. But
my fault.
Any games that you've purchased off the PlayStation Network, you can download to your NGP and play.
That's awesome. I would pick up an NGP then, so I could finally.
I want one totally.
That way I could finally play Tactics.
Totally have one of those things.
I don't think that my games would fit on the NGP because my 32 gig memory stick is almost full.
I just want to play Tactics Ogre.
Okay.
One of my students actually came upstairs, and it warmed my heart. One of my seniors that's graduating this year, he came up and he was like, "Mr. Steinman, have you ever played a game called Final Fantasy Tactics?" I just looked at him. I was like, Sean, I love you. He was like, it is such an awesome game. I was like, did you get Orlando? He's like, yes.
Did he kill everything in one hit? Yes, he did.
I felt like I was talking to a cultured child. I was like, you know the ways of the world, my friend. It's like Shakespeare, Twain, Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah.
Now, only the War of the Lions version, because the PS1 version makes no sense.
He's playing the PS1 version.
Oh.
That's the best version to start with. He deserves to start with that version.
Yeah, the version where it's like, wait, is Ramza somebody different from Ramsa? I'm confused.
I don't know, but all I know is you got to watch out because Rich is about to drop in and we're screwed.
All right, White Knight Chronicles 2 for North America got announced for Europe not too long ago. D3 Publisher is bringing it to North America. They brought us the Blue Dragon games for the DS.
You know what? I actually really like Blue Dragon Awakened Shadow, so I feel mixed emotions about this because I didn't really like the first game. Like, I felt it was so short of realizing its full potential, but I feel like maybe the second time around they can get it right.
It had the greatest annoying boss theme in any game ever.
Isn't
You know
it?
what? I was so excited for the game too. I went out, I got the strategy guide, I got it on release day, was so amped to play it, and I could not get past the 5-hour mark. So I'm hoping that the second one can rectify all that.
Isn't it coming with White Knight Chronicles 1?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a giant middle finger.
Oh.
Why? No, here's the thing. It's not a middle finger. In Japan, it came with it in Japan too.
Yeah, I know.
And you had to complete the first White Knight Chronicles before you could even start White Knight Chronicles 2.
There's another middle finger. Sorry,
Well,
BioWare.
Wait. I'm sorry. I may have blanked out. You have to finish the first game on the second game's disc before you can play the second game?
No,
For the Japanese version.
in the Japanese version, or have clear data from the first game.
So that would basically be like BioWare saying, yes, Mr. Steinman, you wanted to play Mass Effect 2, but we're going to make you play Mass Effect 1 first.
Pretty much.
Wow. No thank you.
Luckily, North America doesn't have that problem. If White Knight Chronicles 2 is good, I don't know. I haven't read Japanese reviews. Might be worth playing the first one with the second game's
You know
engine.
what? Everything deserves a second chance, so we'll see how it pans out.
That's what I keep telling the world. Believe me. What?
I don't know. I remember I played like 2 or 3 hours of the first White Knight Chronicles, and I actually kind of liked it.
Steven, you like everything.
Well, Steven, I promised you cookies if you review that, so we'll see what happens on that.
Wait a minute. What do I get cookies for?
I don't know. When do you write anything?
Oh! Ow! Jerk. Wow, that's...
No,
I realized the only way I could get, as managing editor, the only way I could get people to do things was to promise food. So that has been my new tactic, and it's worked wonderfully.
I write reviews.
I'm just giving you crap, Rob.
Shut up. It's not like I did anything for them. You're mean.
Yeah.
See, Rob, I've only reviewed things that I liked so far, so I have to take one for the team.
Yeah, that's true.
I've taken one for the team more than anybody here, so...
I think my review average is around an 85 because let's see, what have I reviewed? Mass Effect 2, Fallout 3, New Vegas. I've reviewed nothing but great games. Even New Vegas, which I kind of hate, is still a decent game.
Well, me and John, what did we calculate mine at? Was it 77 or 78?
A 77, which is just about average on our scale. So,
But now wait a minute. No, I'm not going to get into that bee's nest.
No, yeah,
we're not to be good.
75 is average on our scale. If you don't like it, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, deal with it. It's called high school.
It's how we do it.
Even though I just failed half my class in physics.
Points off. It's going to happen.
Okay.
More news.
Harvest Moon, Tale of Two Towns for both the DS and 3DS.
Nobody cares but Kim.
No, Kim cares.
Also available
I said nobody cares but Kim.
Also available to pre-orderers is the Charles Dickens version, A Tale of Two Cities.
Witty.
Wait. The Tale of Two Cities, is that like a sequel to Dante's Inferno?
Wait, what?
Okay. You're getting off base
I'm
here.
lost.
No.
This will be the first title for Harvest Moon on the 3DS. Exciting. What would be more exciting? For them to announce Rune Factory Oceans, which I am patiently waiting for. And I was very upset when they teased an ocean for their new game, and it ended up to be some fishing game that had nothing to do with it.
That's like the dudes that thought that the new Capcom game was going to be a Breath of Fire, and it turned out to be Dragon's Dogma.
Bitter, bitter, bitter. But, you know, I really liked Rune Factory. I think the Rune Factory series take a step up from everything because it's not so focused on farming. You have the battle aspects, and the characters have been way better in it. So I would rather have Rune Factory Oceans, but you know, at this point, I'm going to take what I can get.
Cool. More news.
Right. So I have written here Dragon Age, and I have an arrow and Mass Effect.
Oh, that would be that you can get a free copy of Mass Effect 2 with Dragon Age 2.
Yes. Dragon Age 2.
I just understood John's language.
It's not easy.
If you buy Dragon Age 2 for any platform before the end of this month, you can get a free copy of the PC download. It's without the Cerberus code?
I honestly don't know.
But if for some reason you're like, oh, I want Dragon Age 2, and you don't have Mass Effect 2, which I don't know where that scenario would come from.
John,
Insanity.
me,
Pure
right
insanity.
here. That is insulting to me, right here.
Ouch. Way to go, John. Way to go.
Yeah, for
But
real.
now, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, is this a sign? Is this like BioWare being absolutely awesome, giving out a free copy of Mass Effect 2?
No,
Or
okay.
is this an apology?
No, it's neither. It's neither. It's the sneakiest thing in the world, and it's an awesome marketing move. So, take me. I already own Mass Effect 2, both for PC and for Xbox 360.
Hey, big spender.
I tried Mass Effect 2 for PC was like $8, and I wanted to see if I could find any good mods.
Yeah.
Anyway, so have it already. Gave it away to one of my friends on Facebook. He loves it. So my friend Jake, he's probably going to buy Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, you got a point there. Yeah.
You know, sharing is caring.
So this really is kind of okay. You know, Dragon Age 2 has sold 1 million copies, or however much it sold until this point.
I think it's their fastest selling.
No, and it's
million
smart because, you know, the third game is on the horizon. It'll get people into the series who probably haven't played
I guess the cynic in me was just looking at it as like.
Well, I think you're looking at it as like, if I bought Dragon Age 2, I probably already own Mass Effect 2.
I kind of saw it as, well, you bought Dragon Age 2, you spent 30 hours, beat it, you don't want to play it again, so here's a better game.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ouch.
See, yeah. You enjoyed this game for 30 hours. We need to apologize for your $2 an hour entertainment.
John,
God,
you and I,
out in that One Republic song right now.
John, you and I talked about this. I loved Dragon Age 2. I really enjoyed it. It has problems, and it definitely like underwhelmed me a little bit, but it's still a fine game. I think the people that are giving it 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 are way off base.
Even when BioWare doesn't completely succeed, they still succeed because it's still better than half of what is out there right now.
It's still better than Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, we talked about this on Podcast Alpha, but I'm playing Divinity 2 and I'm struggling. I know a lot of people like this game, and I know a lot of people don't, but I'm really struggling, and it's, you know, this is a game that's across the board kind of gotten 6s and 7s, and I don't get it. Like, how can you score this game a 7 and Dragon Age 2 a 7? I don't know if there's any websites like that. I haven't gone and done this research. But
I've done the research.
It actually brings up a great point, because I've run into this with some of my reviews too, is that people want you to like give other games a break because they don't have the budget that the other games have, and you should just look at it as what they're doing is still good, even though it's not going to compare to a company like BioWare.
And this is to be totally candid, this happens sometimes on RPG Fan. You look at some of our indie game reviews for PC indie games, and it's done by a pretty specific staff. It's like the same 3 or 4 people that do our indie reviews, and you look at some and, you know, they get scored high 8. What?
He got bit by his cat.
My cat clawed my feet because she found them.
Okay then. But you look at these games and they get high 80s, and I go, is this game really a high 80? Because if I were to review one of these indie games, despite the fact that it's good for an indie game, it would probably get somewhere in the 60s from me. Because it's like, well, this looks like crap. The dialogue is not very good. The story is okay, and the battle system is archaic. But it's good for an indie game.
Yeah, it's hard to review those. I mean, this is why, for me, I would just prefer not. I hate scoring games, honestly. I think it's one of the reasons why I've kind of been shying away from reviews a little bit on the site. I hate scoring games. I hate
it feels like no matter what you score them, you can't win. I run into this problem a lot with the Harvest Moon series, because when I finally find one that starts to do a little right, like I want to reward it. But compared to other games, it's so hard because you don't base a Harvest Moon game how you would base like a normal RPG. It's really hard to articulate and get what I'm saying right here, but it's very difficult. You want to, when it's taking steps in the right direction, to reward it. But if you do it too much, it's like, well, it's not up to par with, say, like a BioWare game or something like that, like Mass Effect 2. But it can get a pretty high score for me because I'm really excited at where the games are heading.
Yep, and at the end of the day, as long as it's better than Final Fantasy 13, I can enjoy it.
Rob.
I'm sorry.
Let it go.
Well, you know what, John? I'm going to
Rob.
actually say this with Final Fantasy, and I don't want to go in a long spree about it, but people hold those games to a high standard. We wait a couple years between releases. They're never right away, and I think people have this high expectation from them because they've grown up with the Final Fantasy games, and when they just miss so much on what would be decent, it hurts, because like even with Final Fantasy 13, I waited so long for it. I loaded it up. I'm like at the 15-hour mark, probably about now, and I can't see what would compel me to play on further.
Yeah,
and
8 more
annoying.
hours and it's supposed to get good.
Final Fantasy 12 was a game that I've tried to restart now 6 times, and it still has never grabbed me. And that's disappointing because I got that game on release date with the intent, like, I'm going to play this so much, And I think when you have a lot of stock in a particular series and it lets you down, it's really hard to ignore that.
Yep, I would agree. I mean, and to comment on that, it's like she said, it's, how many years between Final Fantasies? I got 2 college degrees in the time between Final Fantasy 12 and 13.
Guys.
Well, yeah, you can't really blame it on them trying to get them out faster than usual. You know what I'm saying? Like Dragon Age 2, the common complaint is, well, Origins took about 10 years. This one takes, less development time. Of course, it's not going to be on par with it. But Final Fantasy, they kind of have longer development times than, the average whatever RPG. So you're kind of sitting there like, well, I want something really good, and it's not there.
Remake that was totally worth 30 years for Pac-Man Championship Edition DX.
That's true.
Oh my god, that game is awesome.
I would agree with that. So we got like 10 minutes over an hour. Do we have any other news stories?
One last news. Xenoblade coming to Europe.
Okay, North America, please, because that would make me happy. Between that and the last story, I am waiting for us to bring those 2 over. The Wii needs some love.
Here's what Nintendo is saying. They're looking at us and they're going, well, we have 2 really good RPGs on the Wii that you like. You know what I think of that?
I want to take you for a ride. Come on, dance.
I gotta say, Steven, that was a little forced. Steven, that was a little forced. I was gonna try to set you up better for that.
I know. I just had to.
That was really, really forced. We're better than that.
We are better than that. And we can assure everyone that we're better than that because it was on the one that we didn't record.
Yes, and it was really, really
It was much funnier the last time.
It was epic the first time. Between that and how I had to mute my mic because I saw the picture of Winnie the Pooh dressed up.
That was such a good podcast. This one's equally good, but you know what? There are good unscripted moments that we'll never get back, but you got to move on.
Okay, last piece of news. Grand Knights history for PSP, Vanillaware's newest game. That's the guys who made Odin Sphere and Miramata.
Can I just say something? Odin Sphere, I've tried to play various times. I get that it's a pretty game, but it never did anything amazing.
I think we should bring Kim on the show more often. She's both a hater and she's like innocently good.
Sure.
I Odin Sphere got annoying for me like midway through, but
Yeah.
I like it was worth it for me.
See, for me it wasn't. It was a really pretty game, but that can't be all a game has going for it.
I agree. Like Final Fantasy 13.
Final Fantasy 13 has an excellent soundtrack and it has fun gameplay.
Wait, are you really not going to touch on the news of Persona 4, the anime?
Oh, I forgot. That was something that was on Podcast Alpha. Yes, there's a Persona 4 anime, not Persona 4 PSP.
And I have to sit here and say that I'm glad about that. Now, people will argue with me, but I am Persona'd out at this point.
I am not.
3 for me was great. Like, that was so new for me. I got to 4, and I felt so jaded by the time I got to 4. I liked the characters better in 3. 4 came around. It refined everything in the battle system, but it wasn't as great as it could have been. Something felt missing. And so when I sit here and try to think of what that is, it's because it came way too soon. And at this point, I'd rather have them working on a Persona 5, and we get that in a couple of years. 2 years, I can probably take 3 even, but too much Persona too soon.
I'm gonna wake me up. Will you wake me up?
So guys, this is something that I think Rob will like. Jason Schreier, who is a writer for Wired Game Life, which is a really nice website. He just tweeted this, and he says, "I just started Heavy Rain. I can see why so many gamers didn't like it. You have to take a shower."
That is quality humor. Did he get to the part where nothing makes sense and everyone tries to kill you and the killer's identity is hidden by a stupid plot point?
It's not even a plot point. It's just nonsense.
But David Cage says that he did something incredible. I'm sorry.
No, Rob, we already talked about it, and you already outed Heavy Rain 2.
I really wish that I was on this podcast when you guys discussed it, because
you would have lost.
Rob, you would have been schooled.
How can you school me with my plot holes with this game?
If it makes you feel any better, Kim, he was already schooled, so it's no big deal.
How was I schooled? You guys all bowed down to me and my awesomeness and my ability to use reason and logic.
Wow, that must have been podcast 18 Alpha, the one that
yeah. Rob claims that he listens to these podcasts after they're recorded.
Can I ask him a question? Are you schizophrenic because you think people are agreeing with you that aren't really there?
God. No, I wasn't saying that everybody agreed with me. I'm saying that everybody resulted in well, it made me feel like I was inexperienced. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't care.
Well, then you did it wrong.
The big plot hole that I can see you is with the whole office scene where Shelby has to erase all the prints and everything. Up until that point, everything else made sense to me.
No, nothing else made sense. It was just, I love how the killer will try to kill you at the end of the game if you did everything right.
All right. You know what? I love that game, but I agree. It's like, oh, you did it. You've proven that you're a father who's willing to go to any length for his son. Time to die.
You know what? Sometimes games need to take you by surprise, and this has been a problem that has been happening. Like,
guys, I figured it out. The origami killer is the guy from Indigo Prophecy.
Or the origami killer.
Origami.
Origami killer.
The origami killer.
Oregano. What the hell?
Okay, before we stop this podcast, I'm supposed to say just like Ninja Hedgehog, so I'm gonna apply this to Heavy Rain for Star Mongoose, who is a great listener and board member for us.
What?
Yeah, that's better than Podcast Alpha, where you wholesale insulted our readers.
Yeah, that's much better.
You know what? I was making a joke. Okay, Steven, you're an English major, right?
I am.
Here we go.
Okay, after I left college, I couldn't read a book for a long time because all I did in my college life was read a lot. So by the time I was like looking for something else. No, Rob, stop it. I know you're going to try to turn this against me. I'm really glad sometimes that podcast didn't come worse, but
yeah, right after that podcast, she's like, guys, can we cut that out? I feel really bad.
Because sometimes, I find it with my writing. People will twist my words around. So I know if I came into this making a joke, it would be like, Kimberley hates everyone. She just insulted everyone.
See, I do hate everyone, so everybody just expects it. Remember, I'm the guy who only likes Demon Souls.
But see,
and I'm
Rob,
the guy who evidently likes everything.
That. Well, I couldn't. Okay, so
it's okay. I would have blown up Megaton in a heartbeat. Again, remember, join me in the dark. Done.
Wait, I haven't even told you why yet.
No, I'm good.
We still need to have a fight over Kingdom Hearts, but we're going to have to wait till another time.
All right. Well, I'll win that fight.
No,
Just
you
like you
won't.
won the heavy rain fight.
Heavy rain. All right, we're done. We're
Chocolate rain.
yes.
Some say dry, while others feel the pain. Chocolate rain.
Yes, Kim, that was the
I'm
joke.
done now, really.
Kim,
They're never going to let me back on again.
Kim, that was the joke. That was.
Enjoy it.
No.
Don't, it'll get in my head.
All right, thank you everybody for listening to the podcast. For myself, for Kim, for John, for Steven, for Zach in Japan, he is safe and sound, and we will hopefully try to get him on the podcast at some point. Thank you everybody for listening. Make sure you subscribe through the RSS feed. Yes, I did win the heavy rain debate, and we're out.
No, he didn't.
Bye, guys.